Record.
Hey, Raphael. Hey, everyone.
What's good, Dr. Gann?
Chilling, man. Just playing some beats for this conversation. How about you?
Good. I'm hiding my camera so I can take a bite of a sandwich.
I hear that. I was just sneaking in a little something.
What's good, y'all? Elliot, Ian, you think we're ready?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Right on.
I'll silence the beats.
I love the beats in the backdrop though, Elliot. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
setting the tone.
Some of those are previews for tomorrow night's Global Beat Cypher, and some of those are from the past couple weeks. But yeah.
Sweet.
Right on. Let me. I guess I could start since I'll share the information about the Padlet. What's up, everyone? My name is Matthew Ledesma, or Matt Ledesma. I am a high school counselor at Carlmont High School in Belmont, but I've had I can't even count 12 plus years working as a school counselor and throughout the Bay Area, specifically along the peninsula, South City. I was a dean at Balboa High School, and I had some work as an equity manager with SFUSD. But I'm back as a high school counselor for the past 2 years, and I'm thankful and blessed to share this space with everyone right now. Should I just go ahead and share out Padlet before the rest of the facilitators? Is that cool? Yeah, just some housekeeping items. We have the Padlet link. Mandy should have it on the side in the chat. For those of you who are not as familiar with Padlet, it is essentially a public message board for those of us that are in the space right now, and we've listed a couple of different topics where we can create dialogue and discussion. Just introducing ourselves, any resources that we would like to share in this space. If you have any examples of hip hop based practices you've utilized up to this.
Ooh, you muted yourself, man. Matt, you muted yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Have I been muted this whole time?
No.
Was it?
No. It just suddenly happened. It just suddenly happened. Yeah.
Right on. I might have to mute myself at some points if I am talking because I got a 9-month-old eating right now. Yeah, I was just going over Padlet. Yeah, so what you could do is just hop on. You can log in, or you can type in as an anonymous user. But this is a space for us to begin discussion and dialogue along these questions. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing, and just open it up now for myself, Elliot, Ian, and any of the participants in this space to discuss any thoughts we've had throughout the day. And Elliot or Ian, do you want to start with the first discussion topic or discussion point?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I think what the plan is, as long as folks are with it, like we have some overarching guiding questions that we just want to throw out there, and then we just want to talk, right? So keep some semblance of structure with these questions, but overall just kind of go where the group wants to go. And so we had an awesome keynote from Dr. Travis, who's blessing us in the space, and then we had a panel as well. And I think we had an opening question that we were going to think about that I'll drop in the chat, and then like whoever wants to respond can just do that, right? So we'll start that way. And so the first kind of opening question, right, is we've heard from our panelists and keynote, right, in ways that they utilize hip hop in their counseling spaces. What additional questions do you have around hip hop based counseling specific to this setting? And for us, that's going to be K-12, which is where we're at. So just any kind of like thoughts you have, specific questions that each other can answer, we can talk through all that.
And Ian, I'll drop the other two prompts in there as well.
Cool.
Hey, Louisa.
Hello, everyone.
And Mandy, does everyone have the option to unmute themselves, or do we have to unmute them?
They should be able to unmute themselves, yes.
Cool.
So I think it's pretty open. I think there's not a lot of control.
And Luisa, we just dropped some questions based on the panel that just happened in the chat as a conversation starter.
So there's a cool thought from Maria on how do we do this amidst COVID precautions? And Elliot, I know you do a lot of stuff virtually. I was wondering if you maybe had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so just to introduce myself, Dr. Elliot Gann. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and director of Today's Future Sound. We use primarily beat making, but also hip hop culture,
And
responsive mental health, educational, cross-cultural intervention. We currently are doing everything virtually. We've pivoted to doing everything virtually. We're based here in Oakland, California, and work around the Bay Area. We had the pleasure of working with Louisa in her school district. She brought us into JESD, where we're currently providing twice weekly after school therapeutic beat making and beat making sessions. And yeah, so having gone virtual, there's certainly a lot of challenges that it presents. I think about one of the kind of the grounding ideas in the work that we do in terms of beat making is the regulating properties of rhythm and how that can, help address anxiety and stress response. All of us are under a lot of stress, kids in particular are. And so we think about how not only doing something that's fun and, culturally responsive and immediate on the computer, making beats through a online platform can be fun and engaging, but also how it can be really powerful in terms of repetitive rhythms that can downregulate our stress response, that kind of calm down our nervous system. We also integrate some dynamic mindfulness in terms of like movement-based guided meditation, real micro doses that we do at the beginning of sessions as another way of giving kids tools to help them regulate themselves. We were already doing that in JESD. That's where we piloted it for the past 2 years in person, in the in-person sessions. So we brought that with us online. But I think to be quite honest, Zoom is a really challenging modality for all of us. And it's something that I and my staff have been thinking about for the past year. First, pivoting online, and then how do you maintain relationships? How do you maintain meaningful connection through this kind of distancing, and also taking into consideration Zoom fatigue? And it's been quite challenging. You lose a lot not being in person, and kind of like the way that we're wired, our neural, hardware is wired. We're wired to interact with people in person. And I think there was I'm not sure it comes out of Stanford, that there was a study that they were doing where they found that if people's faces were on the screens, kind of looking directly at you and close up, that there's kind of the Zoom fatigue that happens as opposed to kind of further away and you're not immediately in someone's face, that it's a tolerable because you're not as kind of virtually in someone's face and in their kind of perceived personal space. But that's some of the things that I think about. I don't know if that fully addresses the question, Ian, but there's certainly a lot of challenges there. The one of the things I can say as a benefit, and I'll kind of cut it after this, is that we have been able to bring in folks from our international virtual community. We run every Saturday night, we run a live stream more for adults called the Global Beat Cypher that brings in beat makers and hip hop artists from around the world, and bringing folks in virtually into our classes and giving access to international artists and hip hop practitioners has been, I think, really special for our students, our kids, and having them being able to interact, share their music, and having these artists perform for them in real time. It's been really special, but it's a really challenging thing, and I certainly don't have all the questions, just some kind of thoughts.
just one quick thing on that, and I'm gonna share my screen for like 2 seconds. I've been using this program, which folks might be familiar with, which is Soundtrap. And it's really cool because what we're looking at here looks like a GarageBand or something like that, but it functions like a Google Doc. So I can be in this at the same time that youth are in it on the other end, and they can be making changes live and I can be making changes. And so this is actually, I won't play it because I don't want to air the student's song out loud, but this is a song that I recently finished with a student as part of some group work that we're doing virtually. So there are ways to facilitate work virtually, I think, even through this space, that are cool. And there are technologies that have sort of come into the fold as a result of pandemic, right? It's sort of that silver lining, is that we've kind of created some cool ways to connect and build. And so this Soundtrap, I highly recommend as just an online mechanism that you can use if you're trying to do some live, like on a Zoom call with Soundtrap up on the side with youth engaging in the work. And Dr. Travis and I have used it as well. So it's cross settings really, right? There's a number of ways you can use it.
Yeah, Ian, I'd like to add to that. There's also a nice alternative.
Yeah.
I'm putting that in the chat, and I'll just share it really quickly that we use is BandLab. Can folks see this? Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's an entirely free platform. My impression is that unless you get licenses granted from Soundtrap, oftentimes you have to pay for it or there's certain limitations. This also allows real-time collaboration, but it's entirely free. And the other thing that we really like about it is that students can download both for iOS for the Apple platform or phones, as well as for Androids, the app, which is pretty comprehensive and has a lot of built-in loops and samples, virtual instruments, a notepad for writing rhymes down, and it's a virtual studio you can record into it. So Soundtrap, like you were saying, is an incredible resource, a really powerful one. And then you also have bandlab.com, which is the one that we tend to use, which is also kind of a social media platform in itself where students can post their beats either privately or publicly. It's kind of like it's like kind of what SoundCloud is in terms of people being able to share their sounds. And I think what you're talking about, it's really powerful to be able to collaborate online in virtual real time, both recording lyrics and being able to make beats.
Yeah, that's super dope. I didn't know about BandLab. I'm gonna check it out now.
Yeah, are both of those platforms accessible through Google Chrome for our students that are Chromebook users?
Yeah, we use it. The reason we use it is because it is accessible through Google Chrome. You may have to have your school district allow for it to, like have permissions and not be stopped by the firewall. We did that successfully with several different school districts, and I believe Soundtrap is too. And they're very much educationally oriented. Soundtrap is as well.
Any other thoughts in the chat, or anybody else want to weigh in? Like, I definitely want a large dialogue here. So anybody that wants to jump in, please do.
I just want to say, as a collaborator using Soundtrap, whether it's BandLab or Soundtrap, one of the things that and Elliot, Dr. Gann, you know this, and you too, Dr. Levy. So my comfort zone rather for using hip hop in practice had historically been on the analyze lyrics, reflect, break it down, critically analyze, process. That's just my comfort zone. I'm from New York, a lyricist, and that's what spoke to me as a person engaged in the culture. And so that's what naturally was my tool as a practitioner. But one of the things that, even though I do some creative stuff, but one of the things that really resonated with me, and it started with my early partnerships with Dr. Gann around beat making, is really seeing the powerful ability to engage and give voice through the creative process. And just a quick, immediate engagement, the immediate sense of joy and satisfaction of being able to produce the smallest of things, whether it was a simple kind of sequence of beats, whether it was a couple of lines that shared somebody's, reality, but being able to create is such a powerful side. So in my work, I've grown into the receptive side of engagement. Grown into the more active, creative side of engaging the culture and trying to create those opportunities alongside, the self-reflection and processing and self-awareness and social awareness, that kind of side. Soundtrap and those platforms take it again to the next level, right? Because you don't have to have the expensive equipment. You don't have to have the expensive software. You get to build with somebody else real time. It just adds a whole layer to it. So just wanted to, I don't know where everybody is in terms of using hip hop, but those different layers have really resonated significantly with me in my work. And so just wanted to share that.
Raphael, I do want to make sure that there's space for other folks to, if they have questions or comments. I could also share the album covers and the albums that we have. I mentioned in the chat, we have thousands of beats that are freely accessible, also as pre-existing resources. If instead of having to go onto YouTube to look for beats to download, on our Bandcamp, which I'll put it again in the chat, folks can download those beats, the beat tapes that we have, the instrumental albums, and some of them have lyrics on them too. Mostly we have thousands and thousands of beats on our BandLab for free download that can be used if teachers and students are looking for resources and to record onto. So I can just share that quickly, and then I'd be curious, maybe we could even have folks kind of go around and say like if they have experience using it, and what they've done, and or what questions folks have. Just really quickly, this is today'sfuturesound.bandcamp.com, and we have like over 100 beat tapes, both student and adult ones, but these are some of our student album covers, and then they have student beats on them. And I've put this on the Padlet link as well for folks to see. So that's just a resource. Some of these are from Australia, where we've done work in Australia. Some of them are from New York. A lot of them are from here in the Bay Area. Some are from Philly. So it's also kind of an international collage of student beats. Ian and Matt, what do you guys think about maybe having folks go around and talk about their experience or questions they have about?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, why don't we just run around, whoever wants to jump in, kind of, I guess, like introduce yourself, and then if you have experience or not, or wherever you are, and then if you have a question or something that maybe you're pondering regarding this work.
Hi, my name is Aya. I'm from Sacramento, California. I'm an MFT in the school setting, so I work with middle school kids. I have zero experience, by the way. I loved how Adam Free shared about the naming your favorite song, and then like what's the emotion behind the song, and then writing your own song about those emotions. Do you have any other intervention ideas that would be useful in a middle school setting?
I think that's a great one, right? A great starting place is sort of transitioning from, Raphael was talking about this a moment ago, that receptive to active. So like we can engage in songs to highlight emotions and see why it resonates, and then pivot from that to then getting a beat, perhaps one of the dope like free ones that Elliot was just talking about, right? Grabbing a beat and then writing over it around that same emotional theme. That could be really great. You said you were an MFT, so I'm naturally drawn to ways like how can you do role play work where you get like parents and children to co-collaborate on tracks around shared emotional themes, or where you get students to maybe. I've worked with many youth who, have had just like something that they've wanted to communicate to their parents and they haven't had a way to do it. So we've done tracks where they have like a letter to their parents, kind of a track, right, that they can like email to their parents to sort of broach maybe an issue that they're trying to navigate addressing with them, right? So there's a lot of ways you can get creative around like concepts of songs and how it ties into the work you do as an MFT, I think.
Thank you.
I hear someone, they're kind of cutting in and out. Who was that last talking?
I think we were waiting on the next person to jump in.
I think that was the end of Ian's speaking. That was cutting in and out.
Yeah, I can go ahead and go. My name's Anna. I'm a school counselor and administrator at a charter school in Watsonville, California, which is a small agricultural town near Santa Cruz County. I'm also a doctoral student as well at San Francisco State University in educational leadership. So I don't have much experience implementing any like hip hop counseling based practices, but I do talk music with students, and my office is always filled with music. So that's kind of the only ways I guess that I engage students in hip hop. Yeah, but I'm really excited to be in this space and just listening and learning.
Yeah, I think just what was discussed earlier from during the panel discussion was, you know, identifying songs that might resonate with us, but we might not agree with, but also validating the reasons why certain songs that might be problematic resonate with youth. And I think to Aya's question, that yeah, dissecting songs with youth is a good practice as well. And I do see a question under the resources articles asking for possible songs to draw and explore social and emotional themes. So if you have any suggestions, I think that'd be a good discussion point in the Padlet.
If I could just throw out there, Dr. Travis has an extensive set of like different activities, and I'll let him speak about that. But he has a lot of really incredible resources, both that are kind of thematic around, you know, the different narratives of hip hop, but also great activities. Raphael, you might answer Aya's question and perhaps give folks resources.
Yeah, so what I will do is I will paste in, I'll put in the Padlet one of the resources that that I often share. The kind of caveat with my work is that I try not to, I try to give people the opportunity to get a little bit of training and kind of background a little bit. It's not 100% plug and play. And I think that's an important part of the discussion, right? Is, you know, kind of how we approach activities and strategies. But there is a resource, because I get the question a lot. So I'll paste in a resource that has a couple of things. It has some songs that have been used in the past that kind of correspond to those different dimensions of empowerment, like esteem, resilience, growth, community, and change. And some of the core questions that help explore some of those social and emotional themes, both from the track, but then also from a self-reflection, kind of self-awareness, developmental standpoint. So I'll put that in there. I call it Me and My Music, and has actually quite an extensive list of kind of ways that you can approach it. It can last you for a year if you kind of how you approach the activity. So I'll put that resource in the Padlet. And if any of you are, you know, want to talk more about it, please reach out to me and we can kind of explore it in a little bit more depth. But has songs, has prompts, and it aligns with the kind of theoretical framework that I use in my work.
I guess I'll go next. Gloria Garibay, and I'm a college counselor at Modesto High School in Modesto, California. And I was first exposed actually because I was a graduate student at NYU, and all my classmates talked about Ian Levy, so Dr. Ian Levy, and his class is always full, so I just couldn't ever get in there. But so before I became a school counselor, I was a counselor strictly with victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And I led a lot of groups that were art groups. And so it was like, you know, painting and scrapbooking and drawing and writing. And it was very therapeutic to the clients. And so now that I'm working with high school students, I didn't really think that that was something that, you know, they would gravitate towards. So I have no experience in hip hop, but I thought, you know, just by being here, I might get some ideas, and I want to in the future. So this is me in planning, right? Because I'm still learning a lot of things that I'm doing now. Maybe create like a group where we can address things like sexual assault and body image issues and domestic violence and teen dating violence and all of these things that, you know, a lot of people are afraid of talking about, but I'm not, because that's like what I know. And, you know, I'm not afraid of saying, you know, this stuff happens. And in Modesto is a small community also surrounded by farm and agriculture and a lot of Latinos and Black and brown people. So it's just something that I think that the students might gravitate more towards. And that's why I'm here, but I don't have any experience. I just have a lot of ideas.
Gloria, can I ask you a question just really quick?
Yeah.
Are you're then getting students to think about like career pathways and college?
Yeah, college applications, all of that, which is fine, but there's so much more to just that, you know, that I would like to do. So what I'm envisioning is maybe on, in addition to all of my responsibilities, is maybe like a club, like an after school thing, that wouldn't necessarily be just for me as in my role of a college counselor. It would definitely have to be outside of what I do now, because this is, you know, this is also very consuming, but it also, I think that it would pull a different demographic to also pay attention to me regarding college, which is very important to me. That's kind of my thoughts on that.
I just put in the chat that that, you know, beat making, the music production and the non-lyrical aspects, which for some students, you know, may be their preferred modality. Not everyone's like a written, verbal, expressive person. There's a lot non-verbally that we could do, especially thinking about trauma that's pre-verbal and non-verbal, but also different modalities, different skill sets and multiple intelligences, just like some students may be visual. Beat making could be another modality and something that you could get kids to think about in terms of its, if that's their interest or passion or modality, to think about like maybe they're interested in a music tech career or a tech career or multimedia or marketing, and that these are useful skill sets to be able to develop, and that beat making, you know, through these resources, whether it's Soundtrap or BandLab or any of the above, could also be something, you know, skill sets that you can say, hey, these are useful in our current, you know, social media driven online world, and can be a pathway. I've certainly seen that. I've done work in the South Bronx with one of our colleagues, JC Hall, at a continuation transfer high school, where you had some kids who were coming, you know, they have this incredible like hip hop studio that they built there, and I've been helping with the beat making. Some kids would literally come to school just so they could make beats there. And that was the motivating factor that kind of pulled up their attendance and their GPA. So thinking about different ways we can use hip hop, whether it's like the visual elements of graffiti and graphic design or beat making or emceeing and recording, just as an idea for career pathways, as well as the kind of therapeutic applications.
Thank you. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Gloria, when I think about career work, right, as school counselors, I think a lot about getting young. When I do hip hop inspired work, specifically with Black and Brown youth, I think that it's our responsibility to prepare folks to enter college spaces that are like super racist, right? And so like I've been thinking about like how do we prepare folks? What skills are we cultivating? How are we helping youth identify where if they love hip hop work that we're doing at the high school level, how are we helping them identify access to like hip hop community outlets on college campuses? And there's a tons of examples of this, right? Like when you look like obviously Cypher and, you know, through Nate Novato is like one of them, right? And there's Digging in the Crates out at Virginia Tech, and there's the Hip Hop X Lab out at Harvard, and the list goes on, right? And so I think like part of the work for me is like, how are we partnering as school counselors with folks on college campuses who are doing really powerful work using hip hop, and then helping to, even before college, have youth have conversations with those institutions, and then pass our youth off to colleges that we know are going to be able to support and nurture them. So that's not as much like a tactical, like skill-based thing in terms of like do XYZ with an element in the work. But I think just thinking about, in addition to that, how do we support youth in accessing space and continuing to get care? Because this is just also building on one of like my grievances with school counseling and a lot of like high school generally is like, we're so focused on getting youth to graduate and out the door, but we're not focused on what comes next. And when you look at all the data that comes next, it's really hard, right?
Yeah, the retention part of it.
Retention is, it's huge. And one of the biggest deterrents to success in college is not academic readiness at all. It's all of the social emotional challenges that come with entering spaces that are really problematic. And so how do we support youth in getting there? And there's no way you can do everything, but like, I think identifying and partnering with, as a counselor, somebody on a college campus to support that. Yeah, and obviously it's like, Raphael has an awesome program too, I forgot to mention, with the Create Lab at Texas State too. And that's a prime example of like a really dope studio space and programming that's available. And so again, I just think like doing our due diligence to like figure out where those spaces are and refer to youth to those spaces is huge.
Thank you for that.
That reminds me of this like this term that I've been hearing more frequently when it comes to referring students or clients to mental health services. Because when you tell a student of a particular service in the community, there's many times that they don't actually get connected. So the new practice is providing a warm handoff to really create that bridge so that they actually follow through. And so that, I think that's what that's what I connected to with what Ian just mentioned in identifying the college spaces. So within your own community, I grew up in Turlock, so I'm familiar with Modesto. So, if you can identify someone at MJC or Stanislaus or UC Merced, that you can refer or connect your students to as they transition there, it'll allow them to know someone who they can reach out to. And that's something that was helpful for me when I was a counselor at South San Francisco, because that there was an easy, straightforward pathway to Skyline College. So I would constantly refer students to Nate, to Cypher, to RT, or even just bring them up to RTSB, to Rock the Two Bells when we have the physical space, so that they would become comfortable and know what it actually looked like. And I do want to give a shout out. I see one of my former South City students, Bridget over here, who's now a high school counselor, is just making me like warms my heart seeing her in this profession now.
Ro, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about like what you've done or questions that you have?
Yeah, it's just looking for the mute button. What's up, everyone? My name's Ro. Use they them pronouns. I'm like super geeking out because I met Dr. Gann like 2-3 years ago at a conference. I forget the name of the conference, but it was
that Riverside,
Irvine or
Riverside, right?
What's that?
At UC Riverside, I think.
UC Riverside, yeah. And like I drove out there. I was just like found out about it. Drove out there, and I was like so excited to hear about this space. I've been hearing about Rock the School Bells for years, and like I'm in San Diego, so it's kind of a drive to go up there. And I was like, one day I would do it. Now we're here in the virtual space. Currently a graduate student at San Francisco State, the school counseling program, first year. And so we'll be done by next year. And I think most of the things that I've done like around hip hop has been like organizing. So I'm really interested in like the counseling piece. As I'm studying to become a counselor and just working with students, also like have been collaborating with the 2Pay program at the Oakland Unified School District. So just trying to see how we could bridge, the two together. And I think my question that I wanted to pose to the group is, as an organizer, I guess this is where my mind is going, is like, are there currently like spaces, maybe it's Rock the School Bells, but like beyond this conference, like, are there like a meeting of the minds type of thing where we could collaborate and move forward? Just would love, I know these resources, the Padlet is super helpful. I'm definitely going to dig through that. I was just wondering if there's like like a collective space or organization we could be a part of to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, I
Well,
was gonna highlight what Elliot's mentioning. Both of those are dope ones.
oh yeah, so I just dropped two things, two resources for weekly meetings, and I know. Well, Ian, you want to say a little more about the Tuesday?
Yeah, sure. So there's a Twitter chat called hashtag hip hop ed. If you just search that on Twitter, Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern, goes for an hour on a different topic every week. And it's been going on for like 10 years now, so pretty long time. And it's a really cool space. And I've been in there for not all 10, but for a while. And really thinking about school counseling, because that's like who I am, right? So I'm a professor of school counseling, former school counselor, all that stuff. So I can just say like, I would, yeah, like you totally pop in there because it would be awesome. And we need more school counseling voices in the hip hop ed space. It tends to be like very teacher focused, and that's cool, but like we need more of the school counselor voice. So I would just encourage that. And it's a dope space to just collab and build for sure. And then Elliot, if you want to talk about the Clubhouse, I know there's another event on Clubhouse going on as well.
Sorry, Dr. Levy, was that the one? Well, the one you were just talking about, is that Clubhouse or are they both on Clubhouse?
Twitter. So Hip Hop Ed is Twitter. Clubhouse is a different chat. Elliot and Raphael, and I've popped in as well, but it's run by colleague JC, who was mentioned earlier. He runs the Clubhouse event through. There's a Hip Hop Therapy Clubhouse club. I think that I'm saying it right. There's all the terms, but yeah, there's a club on Clubhouse.
Yeah, so I'm trying to see if there's a link I can get to it. I'll send a screenshot, but it says it's hip hop therapy in 3 words, and it has a little screenshot of the documentary Mott Haven. It has someone's face, and it says Mott Haven as the like profile picture. And yeah, it's kind of morphed a little bit in the format we've gone to, and I'll let Raphael speak about this, Dr. Travis speak about this, but we've gone from talking more kind of generally about hip hop therapy to selecting a song to kind of analyze in the kind of the receptive modality of like hip hop therapy, understanding kind of like the themes, like often, the narratives of hip hop that Raphael talks about. And then that branches out to discussions about, what is the song talking about, people's personal experiences, and how we might use that in a counseling or therapeutic way. So I'll drop that screenshot in the chat, but it's run by JC Hall, who is the mentee of Dr. Edgar Tyson, who coined the term hip hop therapy.
And it's a great space to, just to come and be a part of the discussion. I got to say every week, I learn tons from the people that are on there, and I've been doing this work for years and years. But it's a great space to really kind of dig into songs and think about it, think about analyzing it from kind of different perspectives, because people come with their own therapeutic lens and thinking about things. And so it's a great chance to kind of explore from a lot of different perspectives, and then think about how you might use some of these tracks therapeutically. But it's a very friendly space, available for all levels of expertise and interests. You have people that have never been, they just pop in because it sounds interesting. But it's a really great learning space.
Ian, I saw that you asked in the chat how to join the club. I'll try to text JC and see if I can get like a link, if there's a URL I can post. I did post the screenshot of the club and its profile in there, and then I think if you search for hip hop therapy, you should find it. There's also a Monday evening meeting that happens with Martha Diaz's Hip Hop Education Clubhouse, which is where this hip hop therapy conversation was housed until this week, was under the hip hop education, and we had done it on we do it on Wednesday evenings. So shout out to Martha Diaz, who's a real innovator in hip hop education, and I would say one of the leaders of the kind of movement and advocacy. I'll text JC and see if I can get that. Maybe in the meantime, Bridget, if you want to introduce yourself and kind of talk about experience or any questions that you have.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for allowing me to enter into this space. My name's Bridget Hernandez. Like Mr. Ledesma mentioned, I am a former student of his. I grew up in South San Francisco. I really take pride in being from the Bay Area, and I think that sheds a huge light as to why I'm here today, right? Like hip hop and all of that. I'm the youngest of my cousins, and they were really raised in the hyphy movement. And so I really appreciate that music really trickling down to me, even though I wasn't raised in that era. I'm a little on the younger side. So I have a strong appreciation for music. And I think being a first year counselor and a first year professional, really, I am trying to balance being my true Bay Area self with the slang and the lingo and all of that, but also, you know, getting accustomed to wearing blazers at work and all of that. And so trying to find that middle ground. And I had a professor at USF that like grew up in the Mission and was just super real. And that was the first time I'd had a professor of color that looked like me, and that was able to find that balance and staying true to himself and wearing filas to work and all of that. And I think that, you know, speaks a lot to a question in the Padlet that says, how do we balance our duties and responsibilities assigned while also being, or including hip hop in our practices? And I think that's something that I hope to find soon, like that balance, and how do we incorporate that in our everyday school counselor role, and you know, finding the time to do that. And with distance learning, I have my lo-fi hip hop beats playing in the background sometimes when I'm meeting with students on Zoom. And, you know, hopefully once they can actually come into the office, like hear that welcoming environment and see that I went to this high school that I'm working at and there's someone that looks like them and talks like them, and that we could be sitting on the other side of the office just like anyone else. So yeah. Thank you.
My biggest advice is just start and let it morph. Like if you open it up and you communicate to youth that they can engage with it in the space, they'll tell you what they want it to look like and how they want it to be. And it will, yeah, it's beautiful. So I would say just start, you know, start even small and just let it grow.
Is it Mima?
It's Mima. Sorry, it got in and out, and I couldn't figure out if it was like my Wi-Fi or if it was choppy. So my bad. But yes, it's Mima. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I also respond to sis, Aya, the occasional auntie. I am in Sacramento, so I believe it was Aya. Is that how you pronounce her name, dear?
It's Aya.
Aya, I apologize. Names are important.
Back down in the house.
Yeah, but you said Sacramento, so I was like,
Yep.
oh hey. But yeah, so I'm in Sacramento. My background's mental health, social work. That's not my role directly. I'm actually in the expanded learning space. And so just, I guess the framework we work around is like this idea of social justice, youth development. And so anytime I can absorb knowledge, tools, skills from like-minded individuals, especially in regards to ways to engage our students of color, specifically our Black and Brown students, is a good place to be. So that's what I'm here for today.
Maybe do you feel like, did you have any questions or things that you like wanted addressed by other folks?
I mean, easiest answer is yes, but I don't have any like specific ones that come to mind that I wanted to bring up in this space at this moment. I'm pretty quick with the chat, so as they arise, I definitely can ask them, but I don't have any currently. And my main one is similar to what Ro brought up earlier, in terms of connecting, which is why I wanted to just remind you I'm also in Sacramento, because I do think the more we can collaborate across different fields, the better. So that I just wanted to make sure. I'm all about connecting and energy. So hello, and that's yeah.
Oh, thank you. And we have about 10 minutes left, so I just want to make sure we also get to Anna. I don't know if it's Anna, if you're there.
Yes.
I forgot. Were you able to, you introduced yourself at the beginning, but did you have
Yeah.
any kind of questions that are outstanding for you, or just thoughts?
I guess my question, or like, your thoughts for everybody here in this space. I think it's always challenging to kind of like bring in, different things into school settings. I think especially being a school counselor, there's certain responsibilities and tasks that we have to accomplish, and depending on our caseloads, it may be difficult to do so. And especially when you're bringing in, I think, new initiatives that kind of challenge the status quo, or the traditional way of doing things. So I just want to hear, people's thoughts on that. Like how do y'all navigate, new initiatives like this that are completely, different from what you traditionally see in the school counseling setting and, in public schools?
We're in a really cool time in like the history of this work because there's a lot of research now, right? So like I know from my experiences, I was able to navigate a lot of pushback with administration by bringing them journal articles that showcase the effectiveness of this work, and those exist, and there are tons of them, right? So like, and when I say tons, I mean like across disciplines, right? There's ones in social work, there's ones in mental health specifically, there's ones in psychiatry. I mean, it's really wide ranging, in school counseling specifically as well. And so I just think that pushback always comes. So my message is like start and then prepare yourself with the necessary tools to respond to the pushback, which for me it's been helpful to have articles. It's been also helpful to measure the effectiveness of my work that I do, so I can gather actual data around my work. And if a principal is like, why are you doing this? I can show them the impact that it's had on students that I've worked with. So I think collecting your own data and measuring your own outcomes is important in this work, and doing it in vast ways like qual data, getting focus group data with youth, like really getting a wide range of reports from youth that speak to the efficacy. I think that really helps in pushing back. And then, yeah, just lastly, sorry, but navigating like the roles of the school counselor, I've found a lot of success in like elective classes. Sometimes there's flexibility to like teach elective classes for music or arts credits as a school counselor, which has helped me carve out actual time in the schedule to do some work. And so I've had a lot of success like running groups sort of silently through an elective class. And so
actually, that was the question I had put up in in the Padlet, right? How do we balance hip hop? You know, and when I first started off in the profession, it was easy for me because I didn't have a child, I wasn't married yet, to take that after school time to volunteer my after school time to supervise the b-boys dancing in the cafeteria, you know, being a club advisor for the hip hop club during lunchtime. But now I'm thinking, you know, what would I do differently, right? And I think, you know, hearing Ian bring up the data and how to get that buy-in is really something that I've been thinking a lot about. But also, you know, what I'm imagining right now, because you know, and this isn't something I've actually done in practice, but if somehow I could imagine this is what it would look like. It would look like a cipher at a high school, because we do, like, one of the current trends is creating these pathways or small learning communities at the high schools. So what if we had a hip hop small learning community at our high school, and I was assigned that as the counselor for that small learning community, and we were able to, you know, create classes, the English classes that really delve more deeply into hip hop, where the U.S. history class dug more deeply into hip hop history as a part of the curriculum. Yeah, I'm thinking and imagining out loud right now as to what, you know, thinking about like how Raphael had us earlier, doing our visioning exercise. Yeah, that would be dope. That's my dream right now, is having a cipher at a high school.
Such great ideas. One of the things that comes to mind, and this happened at the university level, but it may be of some value at the K through 12 level, is, and Dr. Gann knows this, when trying to build this initiative at the college level, it meant bringing in folks. Elliot used to come out once or twice a year to do an event, and other, you know, artists and researchers and people would come, so that people developed a familiarity with hip hop researchers, practitioners, people that were engaged in the culture for these, you know, positive, empowering ways. And so it normalized the presence of hip hop on our campus. And just thinking about possible events that you can throw or partner with, or, you know, to bring, you know, folks like, you know, Dr. Levy or whoever in, may help to get people comfortable with the idea of hip hop as more than what you hear on the radio, and being useful in a lot of different spaces before you start an actual initiative.
I just want to echo that. I think it's so important, and I'd offer also to the folks in the Bay Area and Sacramento, et cetera, you know, and especially with virtual means now, maybe, you know, offering an opportunity for like Dr. Travis or Dr. Levy or myself to present on the clinical therapeutic applications, the, you know, how we can address trauma in culturally responsive ways. And even I always integrate hip hop into, you know, well, I mean, all my presentations are pretty much about hip hop and therapeutic applications, but I also always integrate information about trauma and the difference between PTSD, which is only requires a single traumatic event, versus complex trauma and ACEs, into all my presentations. And I, you know, whenever possible, if I have more time, I also try to talk about intergenerational trauma and integrate, you know, Dr. Joy DeGruy and post-traumatic slave syndrome, and the idea of transmission of trauma and how that really affects us, and, you know, in our current day and age. So these are things where I think we can touch on perhaps things that, you know, administration may not be so keen about hip hop and may have stereotypes or preconceived notions, but I always try to do experiential things, or touch on other areas of quote unquote interest, whether it be STEM or STEAM, trauma, that kind of thing. And then also, you know, data that we've collected, or that, you know, Dr. Levy has collected, that Dr. Travis and I have collected, and like Dr. Levy was saying, the published articles, because we have several articles, those are resources we can give to help create like advocacy, and just bringing in guests, I think, and presenters is so powerful.
Yeah, I recently at my site started hosting every Wednesday a new initiative called Lunch Platicas. and it's just really a space to kind of build community. So I bring in different guests from various walks of life just to kind of share their story, and it's an open space, so it's like not meant to be a formal presentation, which is typically what I did in my beginning years of counseling. It was a lot of formal presentations from guests, but now it's kind of just building community where students just get to ask some questions. We talk about vulnerability, microaggressions, and amongst, career and, life in general. But I've noticed that students started to like open up more, as opposed to having it be like a formal presentation, from, colleges and stuff like that. It's just bringing in different people from the community, and specifically people, who look like them or have similar backgrounds. I think it's really powerful. So I'm gonna hit up a couple of y'all to learn, join our lunch platicas, hopefully in the future.
It sounds like we want to take a group picture. I just wanted to name that. I keep seeing that come up in the chat. So like if everybody wants to, I guess, I don't know how we do that, but if we turn our cameras on maybe, and then we all like kind of.
Yeah, I'll try to take the picture and see if it works. We did lose a few people, but there's still a lot of good folks here.
Group picture. Everybody wants.
All right, I'm gonna try and take one in 1, 2, 3. Let's see. I might need to do that again. Unless any of y'all have a Mac. I'm on a Chromebook and I don't know how to use it.
I have a Mac. I can
Yeah, that would be great.
I can do another one. Right. Everyone ready? 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Boom. All right. And
Thank you.
Chat.
Cool. Any other last comments from our presenters before I direct y'all back to the main session?
I know Ian dropped his email in the chat, and Ian definitely post that on the Padlet as well. Mine's there with various social media handles, and yeah, just say everyone, please try to connect with each other and connect with us. We're resources. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for sharing space. And then Mandy, so everyone should be heading over to the main room, right?
Yeah, so you'll just click on the same link that you did for the opening session, and it'll take you back to the closing session with Dregs 1, a Dregs 1 performance.
Mandy, do you want to drop that in the chat as well?
Let me see if I can find it. I think everyone has individual links. If you can't find, if you have yours, go ahead and go on and go to the main session. But thank you all for attending. If you still need the link, hang on tight, let me know and I'll try to get it for you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you again to you all. I really enjoyed this space and really got me thinking about my practice and reflecting on what I do, and which is also really great. And I love the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you.
Oh, looks like Gloria might have put it in the chat. Thank you. Cool. I'll see y'all there.
Yes, absolutely. Great work, y'all. That was cool.
All right.
Good meeting y'all.
Thanks, Elliot. Thank you. Thanks, Mandy.
Yep.
Love you, Mandy.
Thanks.
Charlie. All right, we'll see you there, Elliot.
Yeah,
Take care.
Should I email them to you?
You can email them to Nate. I think that would be good.
Sure.
Yeah, because he's the one who's compiling all of them.
Got it.
Cool. We'll see you there. Take care.